I get an email, it's like pretty exciting, or it's just like not anything at all. Like there's not really an in between. Like a work update, because I don't get those, right? So it's either like a new opportunity, or it's nerd or die as a new overlay, which is like whatever. So
hello, our premiere event is starting in 2 days. Would you like to cast it?
I may or may not be looking for that email. Not that I'll be casting any of the first week anyways, so I'll be on vacay on Wednesday. So.
Yeah, who knows whether we're casting at all? In fact.
Honestly, who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? It might just be the players and a production crew and the observer, and no casters whatsoever.
All right.
Find out.
Well, we're getting started, guys. Game number 1 of another one of these qualifying matches from the lower bracket. Here on Romanticide, up in the top left-hand side of the map, we have the red Protoss player. It is Rodzyn.
In the bottom right, as the blue Terran on Team Noob, he is Milkicow.
I actually am not super familiar with Rodzyn's team. Manus Samatis?
Sarmat.
That seems like...
Samatis.
Is that like Spanish or?
Well, the actual character looks like Middle Eastern, like he's got like a turban thing going on, right? Am I wrong? Am I just totally seeing that?
No, you're right, but I just feel like whenever someone says something about like turbans or whatever, if I just get really quiet, it usually makes them uncomfortable.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm just like,
You know what, feardragon? I don't see race.
That's true. You do play random. You are actually very diverse about that.
That was my joke. That was my punchline.
It is a Polish StarCraft 2 team.
Oh, okay, cool. So
cool.
Like, I'm guessing more like the like playing Turks and like.
It's actually
the
team Indy is on as well. Indy is the most notable person I see on this. But I think most of the other players are like smaller, up and coming kind of players. But yeah, looks like most of the players joined in around literally January 1st.
There you go.
Like a new year, new me kind of thing.
I wonder what it's called then. Like, it's probably not called. I mean, is it called turban? If it's like not of us, because like all like the head coverings have different terms, and honestly, I don't know a lot of them. But I wonder if it's called something different when it's. Because like when you play like it's the Turks, right? That you play in like Age of Empires or whatever, and they also like if you looked at them, you wouldn't think European, you'd think like Middle Eastern or African or something. But yeah, I don't know. Someone inform us.
I'm not sure either. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I do want to quickly actually jump into the game and talk about the fact that Reaper did get picked off by the Adept, but there's also a fast Marauder over here from Milkicow that immediately gets scattered by the Adept, and It's interesting because there's like not concussive shells or anything else on the way. It was just the Marauder and then follow up into Cyclone.
So this is kind of cool. I feel like it's been a little bit ruined just because the Adept did get a scout on the Tech Lab factory, which at this fast of a timing, not with its own Tech Lab, but rather with like borrowing a barracks one, I think you would know it's a Cyclone. So, I mean, this is a very unorthodox opener, but I think besides getting maybe a push away, you don't have to build a bunker if you have a Marauder because it's a little more intimidating than a Marine is. It also maybe could have like stopped the scout, and then if the scout doesn't happen on the Cyclone can go across the map and get like a freebie kill. But that wouldn't have worked anyways, because Milkicow, with losing his Reaper, didn't see that it is a Stargate. So the Cyclone would have gone across the map, tried to kill like a Stalker or an Adept, and got picked up by Phoenix.
Yeah, that would have been pretty rough. But well, actually, if you look at how many Marines there are, there's only 4 Marines and 2 more are going to be popping out soon. Spreading them around, that Cyclone or even just a few of these other units might still be vulnerable to the Phoenix. Phoenix not really going to try and go for any lift ups. I was going to say you could try and lift up like 1 or 2 Marines and then go after the Cyclone, but definitely a little bit risky to do.
I don't know if I like Milkicow's position. Maybe it doesn't matter overall, but he is going to be playing defensively here. Not really an opportunity to use this Marauder. Oh.
Yeah. Gets a Mule, gets a can full of SCVs over here, gets a Marine as well. Yeah, pretty good harassment so far.
Very good harassment. Of using a mule, that's pretty darn good. Milkicow is kind of, I mean, he went for a cyclone first, and I was like, I don't think he's going to do very much. Then goes for a tank, then a second tank, then a second cyclone, realizing perhaps that the Phoenix harassment is going to be annoying, but still not really ideal. Like, the ideal scenario for the Terran is to scout the Stargate, scout that it's a Phoenix and an Oracle, and then, like, immediately go into maybe 2 Cyclones, 2 Vikings, if you feel like that's what you want to do. Maybe you can get away with 1 of each, but, the way that Milkicow has built his units has felt a little awkward, but regardless of any feelings here, just directly, these Phoenix are getting some really nice damage.
Yeah, really solid control of the Phoenix so far, just not only with what the kickoffs and stuff are, but also you see that a lot of the damage has kind of been distributed across the Phoenix, because every single time Rodzyn's gone in, you'll notice that the weakened Phoenix are usually kind of further in the back, so the Cyclones naturally get a lock on to the full health Phoenix and have a little bit more leeway. We're going to end up seeing a siege tank tries to get picked off over there, but the repair comes in pretty quickly. A nice save and snipes off of Phoenix. So Milkicow finally, I would say, like, that's the first kind of victory he's gotten in any of these defenses so far.
Agreed. Rodzyn has been picking off units, really nice pace, still keeping most of his Phoenix alive, and then behind it, grabbing a 3rd Nexus, getting into charge, and a Colossus Force. You don't need to go super quickly in a blink if your Phoenix are alive. He does lose another one, but 4 is still good enough to do some scouting, some harassment, some defense, and it's not like Milkicow really has an attack. Milkicow is defending, 3rd CC up, upgrades on the way, maybe a push in a minute and a half.
Yeah, and we're just seeing medevacs and stuff being produced right now, so the Viking count is just going to be halted for a little bit at just those 2, or I should say 1.5 right now if he doesn't repair about that 2nd Viking. So the Phoenix not even really going to have to worry about buffering all that much. They're just going to kind of get to dive in, deal with the Vikings that are there, and then potentially start going after medevacs, while the Colossus are going to be sitting in the back lines, hopefully doing their thing, basically, you know, devastating the Marine count, because there's really not that many Marauders of this army so far for Milkicow.
Yeah, it really isn't. He's been working off of 3 barracks with 2 tech labs for a while, but isn't producing 2 Marauders at a time. So his army is, yeah, naturally more susceptible to Colossus. Now, Rodzyn might have been a little overeager with his 4th base. Okay, no, it's actually perfect, because Milkicow doesn't go there. I think if Milkicow had directly gone there, he could have stemmed, popped it, and then left. But since he's moving elsewhere, Rodzyn is going to have a healthier Nexus for it, and it's going to be in the right place as well. He's tracked the army down, and yeah, this is a totally fine position. Not really a good enough concave for Milky to try and take this.
2nd Colossus also about to pop, so if Milkicow did decide to push in from that angle, it would have not gone very, very ideally. Now, Widow Mines look like they'll get, well, okay, 1 Zealot. Nice split out over there at the last second. Is going to be able to eventually clean these up, you know, once he gets an Observer over here, because he's been so busy with the Colossus production. The Observer's like a little bit further behind.
Well, 2-2 is started up pretty quick with the Ghost Academy. I mean, Milkicow does have some transition in mind, but the Marauder count still feels low, and there's no Vikings. Okay, 2 from the original defense to a now 3 Colossus setup. So not a direct way of engaging with a Colossus, and usually that can be kind of covered by, you know, a good number of Marauders in a concave. That's also not what Milkicow has, so I just think that his army is too fragile.
Ooh. A lot of Rodzyn's army is actually sitting on that south side over there protecting the 4th base, but even just the Colossus and the Zealots with a handful of the Phoenix over here is actually more than enough. This is half of Rodzyn's army, and it's enough to push back almost the entire army of Milkicow. This is not a good spot. And now the rest of the army is actually coming from the other side. The Zealot's going to try and flank this position. I think that this might actually just force a lift up. No, he's going to be able to get up to the high ground first.
Still bad news. He is going to have to try and evacuate, which he does. Only 4 Phoenix going to chase him down, but they still grab 1 medevac. And that is an overpowering army right there. There's just not even any reason to try and fill up any more Phoenix or any more Stalkers. The Viking count never grew. Holy shit, the Widow Mines though, and the EMP gives it a bit of a promising start. But I don't know if Milkicow's actual bio composition will be enough.
Yeah, I feel like the EMPs and those insane Widowmine connections make me feel like, okay, he has a shot. Like, it's not even like, oh, you're going to dominate now, and we can even see not going to work out. Something gets called. I don't know what those letters stood for, but Rodzyn takes game number 1.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce those letters, but I got to assume they're where the G button is, so.
He was building a bridge with 2 N's. It was NN.
And I kind of wish, like, you know, because I know Hangul, so I can sound kind of impressive when I read it, and then people are like, what does it mean? I'm like, I have no idea. But I could sound the, you know, phonetics. Can't do that with Russian. And Russian is just like such like a badass language, you know? You can just feel like you're in the depths of winter with your fur coat, doing like the hard life, being a grizzly bear in the wilderness. Maybe that's just me.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's probably not just you. I'm sure there's other people that feel the way. I'm just not one of those people. For me, I'm like, Russian is, you know, I feel like you're also one of the people that probably likes German, because it's like a very hard language and stuff. Maybe you feel a little bit badass. I do not feel that way about those languages.
You know, it's so funny. Like, I totally see where you're coming from, and it would make sense, because both of them are kind of like the languages that, like, if you're saying something really simple, they sound like they're angry. But yeah. I don't know what it is about German. I was never interested in German. I think, honestly, it's because the German language is made fun of so much that it was almost like memey to me. Like, I don't know, thinking of like Falco in the 80s, or any like kind of flamboyant German character in TV shows, or the stereotypical like hunky lady physical therapist who's a German. Like, I don't know, but like the Russian stereotype, perhaps because of really productive propaganda, it's just always been like, you know, very very stalwart and like just cool, and probably toxic masculinity, but still very masculine. So I don't know, just different ways the media has affected me.
Okay, well, thankfully we don't have any Germans in this game that ZombieGrub will have offended, but we do have, down in the bottom left-hand side of the map, blue Terran player. Tried to do some fancy stuff in that last game. Didn't quite work out. It is Milkicow.
In the top right against the, we're up 1-0. It is Rodzyn. And he worked out really well against Milkicow's opener, and just at the aim in general. It felt like Rodzyn had the better game from start to finish. Not in such a dramatic way that we were just like, you know, asking for it to stop. He's already dead. But just everything seemed to be going really well for Rodzyn. And Milkicow, I think, is in one of these positions that I think a lot of people, a lot of Terrans around his skill level find themselves, which is that they're fairly confident in the other matchups, and they can really showcase not just their macro, micro build orders, but also like their confidence and decision making. But when it comes to this stage in their career, it's Protoss that really makes them look scared. They play too defensively, or they play too YOLO, and the balancing act gets really hard around this stage.
Yeah, that is always a really tough balancing act to try and strike, and it's one of the things that just kind of comes with the matchup, right? So however well you can do it is going to dictate a lot of your success here. So interested to see how things are actually going to progress out. Milkicow gonna just have that similar like marine. Oh, actually, no, it's not similar, because, yeah, you didn't go for a Reaper at all this game. Going straight up to the reactor off of that one Marine, doing a little swapperoo, and I have to imagine going to try and get a little aggressive with some Hellions. Yeah, those are the first Hellions.
No proxy starport, so just going to try a good old bust into the natural, and then maybe have a medevac fly over for the main. There are Protosses out there who do not actually just default to blocking their natural. And Rodzyn might be one of them. He's actually set up more SimCity in the main base than bother putting his natural, his second pylon in his natural, which I guess is kind of like a natural pylon, but I wanted to be super clear. So his third should still go down, just because you want to have the ability to make a shield battery against anything else outside of the Hellions. But,
oh,
there it is, there it is.
You know what's really funny is when the Adept shades out, like it got into the main base, was killing off some of the stuff, but then shades out because he's like, I'm sure that some more stuff is here or about to pop or something. The Hellions come on forward. They snipe off 4 workers already. Gonna be able to get a 5th before finally falling. So not too shabby, like you were saying, but none of the wall in. It's just funny because I was thinking if the Adept didn't actually finish its shade and just stuck around, there were no other units besides Widow Mines coming out. He actually could have killed literally the last Marine and then gone after some workers himself and maybe equalized it.
Yeah, you're right. It could have been a little bit more of an equal trade. I think that is probably just the whole idea of, like, if you're not going to be paying attention in hostile territory, then get out, you know, is usually the better strategy there. So it's like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to micro it, so I just gotta bring it home. The threat of 4 Hellions is also probably pretty scary, but it was 2 into the Widow Mines, and 3 Widow Mines will drop in the main, but easy pull away.
Yeah, Widow Mine doing a nice job of not firing a shot too early, though, and actually just buying a lot of time. These Stalkers, oh my god, the Stalker is blocking the rest of them, so only one of them was actually firing. It gets the shot off before finally gonna get picked off over here, but that Widow Mine in the natural is also being really annoying. Oh, the target fire!
Oh, yep, there you go, there you go. That's a lot of lost mining time. Milkicow really capitalizing on an otherwise, you know, good defense. Milkicow ran into Stalkers, still managed to get 2 of them dropped out. Medevac's still alive, third one could do a lot of damage because Rodzyn is now going to be focusing elsewhere again. You know, that's one of the easier defenses for Protoss when they can just look at one location. It's easier for anyone in StarCraft. But if they're also going to be trying to attack... Okay, well, never mind. He actually used it. Hindsight 2020, saving that for when the Stalkers are being aggressive probably would have been better, as he did know that it was a 4-gate opener. So he knows aggression's on the way. Patience would have been rewarded for that medevac. As it is, he has a defense back at home, and that is more important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well done on that defense eventually there from Rodzyn, even though you were saying, like, you know, a lot of lost mine time and everything. But this is one of those maps that does get a little bit tough when dealing with Blink Stalker stuff, just because you see where all the add-ons and stuff over here for Milkicow are if you get that high ground vision that the War Prism is going to support. The bunker was made a little bit further back, but that siege tank is so well protected by the buildings. Stalkers are going to blink up anyways, and now they're committed over here because the siege tank is in range. They have to do something, but 4 Prism loads up 4 of the Stalkers. The rest of the half of them end up falling. What is that? 3 Stalkers end up going down over there, and a lot of them, you know, beaten and battered with their shields taken off. That was definitely not what Rodzyn wanted to have happen there.
No. Could have been a lot worse, though. 3 Stalkers. Not worth crying about. Go on with the rest of the game. Basically, with just the setup that Milkicow had already shown, I think Rodzyn had to identify pretty quickly that this wasn't going to work. So, only losing 3 Stalkers when it's pretty much been stopped in its tracks, yeah, could have been a lot worse. So, with that, you know, with Rodzyn's attack not doing anything, and he took damage to the probes, to the Widow Mines, that went down with the Hellions. Milkicow should be in a really fine position. Like, he should feel confident about doing a move out with Stim. You can feel confident, but don't commit, because if they're actually just like going balls to the wall charge lots, knowing that you're going to do that, you could make a mistake. But if they're trying to play out the game, get an upgrade, get to Colossus, a move out would be nice to see from Milkicow. You could do a lot with it.
Yeah, going to be able to try and move out over here. Gets the Observer. Very important to snipe that off so that he doesn't have to worry about these Stalkers, you know, moving around and being annoying. More Stalkers also falling over here. Rodzyn really bleeding out quite a few of these. Now, it does look like with these siege tanks and stuff set up over here in the long distance mining, this is really just going to be about kind of establishing that third base first. But if Milkicow decides to move out, there is really not a lot. There's just not a lot of anything back at home for Rodzyn.
Yeah, and thankfully he is going to move out. Scans ahead as well. Doesn't see 20 charge lots waiting with more to come. Sees a Colossus, which is obviously a big investment that could pay off in time, but it really needs more things to protect it. And Milkicow, well, he's also got that Raven. So the Colossus is going to have to buy a lot of time because it's about to be Interference Matrix.
Well, the Force Fields are buying quite a bit of time as well, and that shield battery overcharge keeping some of these frontline units alive just a little bit longer. But the Raven is actually going to have enough energy for another Interference Matrix, I think, not too far in the future. So he has to be really careful. I don't even know if he can really wait around until the second Colossus comes and then try and fight. Yeah, just going to abandon ship on that third base. Probes being pulled off the line. Does manage to salvage a lot of those. Still a very tough position, though, as there is the War Prism trying to get damage on the other side of the map. 5 workers go down. Still not a lot compared to how much damage he could be taking soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. The tanks aren't sieged immediately, but there's so much bio that it doesn't really matter. The Zealots get demolished. The Colossus can't burn through that much bio that quickly. GG. Everything tied up.
Good push over there from Milkicow, and I guess off the back of, good defense as well against the Stalker aggression that, oh man, Rodzyn really just not getting the better end of those trades with that blink up to the main base. I think he just, I have to imagine it was just a situation where he was like, I don't see a siege tank up here in range. Blinks up, he's like, oh, there's the siege tank.
Yeah, for sure. He certainly had to try to do something. I mean, at a point, you do have to cut your losses, but I think he did pretty quickly. But even then, you made the decision to go for a 4-gate. You added on those gateways. You didn't add on any technology. You didn't add on a faster third nexus or chrono booster probes. It's a big decision, and if you just can't do anything with that decision, it is, of course, going to be bad whether you commit or not. So it's just, at that point, it was more just the build order met a wall, and the wall attacked back. So very simple game when that happens.
Yeah, good way of putting it. But here we are. We're going to be moving into game number 3. Like you said, it's tied up 1-1. Blackburn going to be our next map. And glad to see that both these players have at least gotten one in on the board, because that first game, it was a bit rough for Milkicow, to say the least. He tried something clever, really didn't work out. Rodzyn able to really dominate in that one. But that last game definitely showing that Milkicow can play a bit more of a solid game if he is given the chance to.
I do kind of think that Rodzyn, maybe after that game, now realizes, oh, okay, well, things are going to get different. Things are different. That he might have played a little bit too much into Milkicow's game, but I'll elaborate on that in the future, maybe. Bottom left, it is Milkicow. Bottom right, we have Rodzyn on Blackburn. Milkicow sending out 2 SCVs. Rodzyn going for a forward pylon. This can actually backfire. I am concerned. I have worry, feardragon.
I have many worry too right now. Okay, so the probe is going to come forward. It's going to see that there's no barracks over here. He's not going to... I'm actually surprised. Usually you want to move in and scout the gas. Okay, yes, Rodzyn comes back. He just confirms this isn't like a CC first. He's going to move around, confirm there's no barracks in like the corner of the base. Are you really not going to scout the gas? I mean, it's usually it's going to be like there's a gas there. I guess he's just going to assume it.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I mean, clearly it's a barracks proxy, right?
Yeah.
But any other detail beyond that, like gas first, well, I mean, you can't see the barracks, but these guys might know the timings. He's going to get back in, I guess, later on, as long as he eventually does. So now it is Marines, but there is going to be a factory afterwards if the Marines don't do the trick. The question really is, do they do the trick? Is the forward wall off going to be a little too vulnerable? They get there faster. The pylon looks even juicier to target down. Like, it can be very scary.
Well, a couple of probes over here to buffer for a little bit. I like the addition of a second pylon, but I actually wouldn't have minded if it was a little bit further back. I'm going to note that that other pylon is not in range of the cybernetics core, so if that first pylon gets gets taken out, warp gate will get delayed a little bit. Zealot kind of caught on the outskirts of this this wall now, so it will likely end up falling alongside the probes.
It got the one SCV, and then the other one was injured, which is pretty important. I mean, a Stalker probably takes down the SCV regardless of its injury, but it always feels a little bit easier. It's already half dead. There you go, 2 shots instead of 4. And while that bunker being in this position can be brutal, if the Zealot pops out on the wrong side, that's a bad time. Now it's just, there's nothing you can do with it. Like, it doesn't help the Marines. It actually just creates a full wall for the Protoss. The Marines can't even try to jump on top of the Stalker, and that was pretty easy. It can go south really quickly, but that was totally fine. Rodzyn, with a nice hold, gets back to building up the warp gate. Is building a shield battery unnecessarily, but yeah, he's gonna cancel it. He checked.
Yeah. And now Rodzyn will probably feel pretty decent about this, as that natural expansion is gonna get started on up. The Stalkers can continue to harass the barracks. They shouldn't be able to kill any of them, but now the Stalkers get to play that fun little game of, trying to poke forward, but The high ground area is going to be the saving grace over here for Milkicow. On some maps, you don't necessarily get that high ground to the natural and everything. It's a little bit more complicated, but Rodzyn's still going to try and play around with this. See if we can find any marine pickoffs over here. No, I'm just going to back off now. I think good timing actually as well, since the Widow Mine's now just popping.
Yep. Yeah, Rodzyn has 3 Stalkers now. You know, Stalker is going to be preferable to dealing with a push like that, the outrange Marines, after all. But they do lack scouting. They can't send an Adept Shade in, which is why an Adept first is what you would see in a macro game. That's bad news. That sucks.
Oh, man. You know, so unfortunate, because I really thought that the reason he pulled back his 2 Stalkers because he just was like, now is the time that a factory would have finished the first Widow Mine, and now I have to back off because I don't have high ground vision. I was like, no, okay. He was just pulling back to reach into the 3rd Stalker.
Yeah, that seems like a, oh yeah, duh. That definitely is a possibility. It could have thought it was going to be a safer tank, just because a Widow Mine drop is about harassment and not. If it was a 4-gate response for Rodzyn, for instance, like really just crazy response, which Milkicow doesn't know, he didn't see the Nexus go down, Widow Mine might not have been the most dependable thing. But of course it is just kind of a macro game, so a little drop in the main is going to be getting a couple of probes, hopefully at least. There you go, there's 2.
Yeah, finding a 3rd one as well, and these Widow Mines gonna make things kind of annoying. Oh, I love both of these players actually playing around that Widow Mine. Hussein Phoenix to try and set it off, but immediately unburrows it, loads up, and kind of goes to the other location. Widow Mine's still having a hard time getting a shot off, and it looks like it's just gonna settle for a single probe there.
Not much more he can do, but I gotta say, Milkicow's macro game might not be the most impressive. Just like the first game, it was very defensive and didn't really work out. Last game, I hesitate to call it a macro game because he won with the defense.
Yeah.
But the both this game and the last, his early game micro offensively is actually really, really good. The Protoss is taking more damage than it would really like to do, and it's not stopping. It's still happening.
It is definitely not stopping with the Liberator and the drop coming back in. I want to note that Rodzyn's response to this was, well, you can't harass a base if you don't know it exists, and he snipes off the medevac and also pushes back the Liberator and also has taken a base on his opponent's side of the map.
Well, he's gotten a gateway there. I would love that was
sorry.
a base.
Okay, you know what? I've been very lazy and I've just been using your observer thing. I just saw that, and I saw the pylon plus the gateway making like a nice big red dot, and I'm like, oh my god, he's taking his 3rd at his opponent's gold because you can't harass a base you don't know about. But no, he's just getting aggressive.
I mean, that would have been amazing, but that's your NA showing, all right? Yeah. Wow, the observer barely covers that. What am I? So the proxy gateway is, of course, very, very notable. There was an attempt to get to like 4 gateways, but it's kind of been haphazard. This was the 2nd gateway I think that Rodzyn built, and then he was probably going to build 2 more faster back at home, but it was dealing with the drop and dealing with the harassment, which he did effectively shut down, but after it lasted a while. It sucks about the slow zone. So this 4-gate is like 4-gate, like it's late and not gonna work. Even if it was really, really quick, I don't think it would have worked. Milkicow is once again gone total. Yeah, I'm not gonna die to Stalker mode. It's got tanks, it's got bunkers.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty difficult to break through this right now. Funny enough, I think that actually no, Milkicow's got all the siege tanks ready for this, so I don't even think you can actually poke in. There's no openings over here whatsoever. Milkicow actually feeling pretty confident with his defense also so far. He's just gonna let up 2 medevacs, head across the map, and honestly, Rodzyn looking very barren over there. He does have 1 observer that'll spot this out, but has he been using his warpins aggressively? Well, he's not really reacting to the medevac passing over his observers, so I'm a little worried for Rodzyn right now. Okay, there's the warpin.
Still, only 3 zealots, the double drop. That's all right. The Stalkers are also recalled home. That's still a fight that Milkicow could be happy taking. Yeah, exactly. Rodzyn's gonna be forced to reflexively blink, and he is going to win the fight, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse. It's actually some pretty good blinking. He took very little damage.
Yeah, that is not as good of a trade as I think Milkicow was hoping for, but At the end of the day, it's little bits of harassment. He knows that he's pulled back all the stalkers, so that's why exactly why you also see that third command center actually finishing on up, and all the SCVs now feel comfortable actually starting to mine from that third base location. They don't have to worry about the stalkers picking them off. Milkicow used that drop as a way to buy space to actually take a third.
Now this is kind of what I was getting into before we saw the 2 racks happen, so I can talk about it. I feel like Rodzyn in the last 2 games, this one and the last one, like he's played into Milkicow's strengths, which is that if he's going to be aggressive with a 4-gate, because again, he did 4-gate here, it just was like kind of slow and not really well timed. He's playing into Milkicow's eagerness to defend. It was very clear he was going to be kind of defensive in the first game, not just because it was a Phoenix opener and he had to respond to it, but just like the way that he was positioning himself was what I was talking about, kind of, can be the sign of a scared Terran who's not really confident at this level in TvP. But if Rodzyn's going to literally just build into an attack, that is where Milkicow is going to feel very validated for going defensive. And so Milkicow gets to play his game, in my opinion, which puts him up 30 supply, even after, kind of a failed drop at the end of the day. It didn't really work out very much. He's still in a really nice position.
Yeah, Rodzyn really needs to identify exactly what kind of game this is and where he's actually standing in it, because if he just continues to get really, really aggressive and inside of Milkicow's face, that's going to get to be a pretty rough time. I mean, the Blink Stalkers are one thing. Blink Stalkers are fine, because they can potentially get out of there, especially if there's no... Well, I guess the Stealth is finished up now, so maybe chancing, risking these Stalkers, a few of them already falling, the rest of them also pretty low on hit points. Oh, man, Milkicow is going to be able to get into a very, very aggressive position over here between the natural and the third. The Colossus is going to be so important, but there's only one Colossus out on the map right now, and the second Colossus pretty far away from finishing.
I'm also worried about the lackluster charge lot count. Even when the tanks were unsieged, it was just not going to work to jump on top of them. Now they're going to be sieged preemptively. They're siege hopping forward. Milkicow is dealing with a run-by, and a rather well-timed run-by, as Milkicow's reinforcements had just left to join the front lines. But it is still ultimately a 30, almost 40 army supply lead for Milkicow. Rodzyn eventually will have to deal with that fact.
Yeah, it's the difference of, well, my opponent's giving me some paper cuts, but, I'm slitting their jugular. It's a difference in level of degree of problems. But here we go. It looks like Rodzyn's actually going to try and push into this with the Siege Chinks. Oh, man, the Siege Chinks are all sieged. Is Rodzyn actually going to be able to get the cleanup over here? He's doing surprisingly well, but does eventually get forced back. I was going to say, I'm surprised that he pushed in while the Siege Chinks are out of range of any of his actual stuff.
Yeah.
To push into them while they were still sieged up.
And I think that's a very good point. He must have thought his charge lot numbers were almost good enough to actually jump on top of the tanks, because there's a very dramatic difference of charge lots on tanks and charge lots on the way to tanks. And a lot of that fight was on their way to tanks. So, yeah, I can kind of see where maybe Rodzyn was thinking, but he needed more charge lots. And with that, I mean, it's not the end of the world. He doesn't just die because of that misjudgment. He does ultimately still save his 3 bases and loses 10 probes and a disruptor, but has his Colossus alive, right? Like, it is still Milkicow getting onto 2-2, into the Ghost Academy, Force of Seas on the way, minor interruption to his economy, but he still even has more workers. Like, it's still tough for Rodzyn, but at least he's held on.
That he has. He is hanging in there, but, well, we're going to end up seeing a Storm coming on further out, so Rodzyn going to have big playmaker availability later on. Also, I wouldn't say like staying on par with upgrades, because he's definitely going to be a full set of upgrades behind in just a few seconds, but he's at least got that +2 armor on the way to try and do some sort of upgrade mitigation for, how far behind he's going to be falling on that.
I mean, if you're going into disruptors, maybe the upgrade deficit doesn't matter as much, but that's not what he's doing. He did go into a disruptor, and then I guess was turned off by the idea because it died. Got
killed off. It was like, this is not working.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but it's something that I think he should be doing. The best Protoss we see, and you can talk about Showtime again, they actually aren't even bothering with Storm in a game like this. Like, they might go into Storm first on 3 bases and kind of play a bit tricky that way, but when they get to a point like this where they can go double Robo over Storm, they usually go double Robo and Disruptors and Immortals. The Storm just isn't as dependable as it used to be, and the upgrade for the EMP is on the way, and that's exactly when Storm looks really stupid, because it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I do like the spread out of High Templar so far from Rodzyn, and actually manages to dodge out of the way of some of those EMPs, but does end up losing energy on 2 of his High Templars. Actually morphs in one of the High Templars that had energy for a Storm into an Archon, so looks like he's going to have a little bit more of a frontline buffer over here. Storm lands decently on some chunk of the army, and Rodzyn is just going to go for it. Gets in on top of these siege tanks with a lot of the Archons, blinks on top of the rest of them. And now this battle force is being forced back. A Storm flank potentially came in, but it stormed so late. He had a great opportunity to get some big damage there.
That was a really cool idea, and I wish it had worked out, but not quite. Milkicow is not taking the best fight possible, as he was actually just kind of missing a concave behind the tank lines. He was kind of bulked up, so he wasn't protecting the tanks while the Stalkers were blinking on top of him, and then was obviously bulked up for the Colossus to do maximum damage. At the very least, he did grab a Colossus. That's why he took a Storm to the face there, was that he grabbed the Colossus. But the supplies have really evened out over the last 2 engagements. And I'm not even sure that's because Rodzyn's taking the most amazing engagements. I'm just not sure Milkicow has gotten to the best composition he possibly could have. We still don't have any Vikings. And his Marauder count is healthy, but it's not big enough, basically. Like, his economy, I guess, got interrupted at that right moment that he didn't go ahead and just skyrocket in just pure terms of number of units. It's an even number of units and not necessarily all of the best units.
Yeah, and it's going to be really tough for him, too, to even add on a lot of Vikings from here, because I feel like he did finally start to replenish some of the medevac count, but even during a lot of those fights, like, he only had 2 medevacs. It wasn't like he had 8 medevacs, lost a bunch, and was then down to 2, like, during the fight. He went into that fight with 2 medevacs, and if you only have 2 medevacs, then you have to focus on making some more. So you don't actually have the leeway to make Vikings right now. He finally is getting up to a decent number again. But with a second starport and stuff being added on, the Colossus production is already halted. He's already has a couple of Colossus that he wants out. Oh, big EMPs on the Storms, though. So all of them taken out of the fight. The 2 Disruptors coming forward. Are they going to be able to make something? No.
They saved the day. Well, I think the slow zone saved the day, but that's what Disruptors are definitely good for, is if you make a mistake, you get EMP'd, you throw out a Disruptor and go, yep, just kidding, not going to take the fight. So that's how it goes down. Milkicow is getting his 4 bases, now going into a 5th. Finally clean up the proxy gateway, getting all of his upgrades, including the Ghost Cloak, and I hope we see a nuke after that. Fusion Core on the way, too. He's actually been quite good about his air upgrades. Oh. And since it was never any Viking emphasis, it had to be for those Liberators, and we finally see them on the way.
Yeah, and you're actually getting your wish a little bit early. There's a second Ghost Academy, so there is actually already a nuke on the way.
There you go. Maybe a bit of an anti-timing to start things off. Upgrade finishes for Milkicow, now finishes for Rodzyn. Still ultimately a lead for Milkicow, up by 2 upgrades, and now the Liberators are already at 4, with +2 almost done, are certainly going to make that impassable, like, line. That just, like, you'd have to really know you want to take it. But, well, okay, as I say that, well, planetary tanks and Liberators, yeah, I guess that's still pretty difficult to run into.
Yeah, especially with the Ghosts able to lead a bit of the charge and make sure that any High Templars with Storm and stuff that could help zone out are going to be taken out. And then it's really just the Disruptors that can actually do some of that zoning for a bit. But Rodzyn decides to relocate, could take out these rocks and start making his way down to that gold base location, or heck, I mean, actually even just go to the other side of the gold minerals and deny mining for a little bit. He really wants to play it super safe.
That's exactly right. That's what Colossus are going to be really good for. Liberators and Liberator range will eventually kind of counter that, but I think this is more about threatening every single angle possible. Rodzyn is trying to make sure to find an opportunity where the Liberators or tanks or both aren't siege, because that is, it's basically his prerogative. It's what he has to do as the Protoss player in this engagement. Eventually, the Liberator count, currently at 5, once it gets up to about 8+ with its upgrades, you have to either be totally on, like, have the Terran under your thumb and in control, or you have to be on your way to carriers. Ooh. And there's no carriers on the way.
Really sick set of feedbacks from that one High Templar, which even the High Templar ends up living over here. But every single EMP, except for I think one Ghost has, no, it doesn't even have enough energy for an EMP. So actually Storm could be a little bit more effective right now, given that there's no EMPs. But oh no! Oh, the Disruptors do manage to get a good hit off on this run by over here. But man, This is gonna pull everything back. At the same time, the gold base is not shut down. So Rodzyn, he's getting good trades on this, but definitely also did not get a lot of aggressive damage done there.
That could have been worse if they had been paid attention to the entire time. Maybe they blitzed past 2 disruptors into the main, but yeah, it really wasn't so bad. Both of them still have a bank, although Rodzyn's is much greater. I did check, like, yeah, okay, actually, that's what I thought. So it's not even that he has taken those better fights. I double-checked when I said that. There was an even resources lost. Now, it's actually even a bit... Well, I spoke too soon. I think the net effects just went down. Now it's perfectly even again on the resources lost. There you go. So Rodzyn has just actually been mining a lot more as his 5th base was up a little bit faster. Now totally denying the gold base, as you had pointed out. But where is that nuke? It's in the top right. Oh, it's seen very quickly.
Really on point with, honestly, a lot of bases going on, but there's also another little bit of harassment inside of the natural. We're starting to see the drops coming back in, and not really finding a whole lot. Colossus are there and ready. Another nuke gets called down, because why not? The cannon's been taken out, even though the Ghost has 0 energy now. He's gonna just soften up the Nexus. He's gotten all the shields off of it, at least.
Yeah, all right, yeah. It's something. I think sniping these 2 High Templars that have been chilling the entire time might have been a little bit better, but I think it was more so distraction, so that Milkicow's army could actually get into position, which is trying to do now. Liberators aren't sieged up, but that's one hell of a choke when they siege up. Rodzyn is going to try and take the fight and take them down before they siege, but that's not going to work, man. There wasn't enough Stalkers to do that, and with the Liberators sieged up, Rodzyn just has to give up control of this area.
Oh, that was a really brutal fight for Rodzyn to try and take. I mean, maybe if he'd even had one more storm that managed to land on that army, yeah, I think both of you were kind of a bit choked up in that last storm. Could have sealed the deal on a lot, at least the Marines, if not some of the Marauders. But now losing that gold base, at least the drops are starting to get cleaned up over here, so he's not going to have to worry about this anymore. Yeah, there goes all the medevacs. That is a nice small victory here, but losing a really important base in the center is going to be tough.
And more so having the frightening fact that the Terran did get across the map with Liberators and you didn't stop it. Like, you don't... Having it happen once and losing an accessory base, one that you can replace and not be too upset about, like, okay, that's fine, but you really don't want to have it happen again, and you certainly don't want to have it happen into a more crucial area, like on top of your production, for instance. So just a reminder, I think, to Rodzyn that he's got to be really on top of the Terran, where he's got to start his transition, which he did start a fleet beacon, but has not yet started any additional stargates. A nuke in the natural is kind of an odd place to do it, but sure, why not? It might actually end up killing some structures if he wants to send down 2 or 3 nukes. Disruptor in the middle of the map doesn't find anything, actually. And the Liberators are a little clumped up, so yeah, those are going to get taken down.
Yeah, that was a decent chunk of them, like 4 or so going down. Both of the Robos get taken out by that nuke, and another nuke coming out. I don't know what this nuke is about, but at least the other ones were killing off some good stuff. That nuke does get canceled. We end up seeing the Stalkers actually get in onto the other side of that gold mineral line, while some Zealots and DTs try and do a run by on the north side. Those get pushed back pretty quickly thanks to the missile turret, the planetary fortress, and a handful of bio units. But at least denying mining from that base and taking out 16 workers is not too shabby there for Rodzyn.
It's been a heck of a back and forth. I mean, the Ghost is kind of comical, sure, but 2 Robos down. I mean, that could have been a big deal. I don't know if it actually is going to be, as Rodzyn is replacing them, but could have been. Milkicow is actually... To say he ever loses track of the army is going to be inaccurate because there's sensor towers everywhere, but he can still be out of place. So he is going to constantly struggle being out of place if Rodzyn is really good about bouncing up, down, left, right. This might be one of those games where we actually see some of the middle bases taken, which I would absolutely love. But it is definitely a game we're going to see a full-on late-game TvP. Carriers are now on the way. +1 is on the way. Oh, if we see a juicy nuke, it's going to the highlight clip.
Oh, it looks like he's going to notice it. But oh my god, that retreat path, ZombieGrub. All of the High Templars go down. Both of the Colossus end up falling. The Archon's starting to go down. There come the emergency disruptors, but now the emergency disruptors have been used. What's going to keep the Bioforce from just continuing to charge forward?
The Robos had recently just finished, so they're back to cranking out disruptors, but maybe that timing on the disruptors actually is going to affect this game. One disruptor not going to find the shot. Carriers have arrived, however, and there's actually not a ton of anti-air. The Liberators get taken down by the Stalkers, the Bio gets taken down by the Charge Lots, and Milkicow has overextended ever so slightly, is forced to pull back, regroup, and rebuild his army. Both of them on some pretty consistent income. Milkicow's upgrade's looking a lot more intimidating, but he's got more nukes. He's gonna bother the heck out of Rodzyn.
He's gonna find both Robos again. I don't think that... Oh my god, Cloak is gonna last long enough. Oh my god, he cancels the nuke with the disruptor. Literally a second or two before I feel like it was gonna go off.
Yeah, that was really close. That was... Oh, very close. All right, so Milkicow, he gets to recuperate. That wasn't the overextension that leads to the immediate counter of charge lots. That can be a very frustrating way to lose. And he actually had a lot of reinforcements back at home, so he was never going to lose. He still manages to hold a 20, actually almost 40 army supply lead. He's just down in SCVs, but that's fine because he's got mules. Milkicow, at this stage, I actually feel really good for him. The only thing I'm worried about is if Rodzyn does manage to get that air battle superiority. Like, he definitely has a good number of carriers, but not even that. Like, he just has more carriers than Milkicow has Vikings, and that doesn't make me feel very good. Like, Liberators are great, but you don't need 15. 8 will probably do the trick, and then the rest can go on the Vikings. Make sure you can take down those carriers. Don't rely on the Marines, because that can sometimes be a really heartbreaking loss if the Marines just don't quite cut it.
Yeah, I think it's also going to be very interesting as we get to see a late game PvT on Blackburn, which is, you know, definitely, it's one of the newer maps and whatnot. Got a quick pause, so I'll finish my point. But both these players, I feel like they're actually starting to get very spread out on this map. And we even see like this kind of weirdness of Rodzyn taking the far north base, but then he also has to cover this bottom base that he's taking, where on like the south side of the map, next or on the low ground of his main. So it's like, he's getting very spread out, and the carriers, not exactly the fastest units ever, but he's complementing it with a lot of zealots and a lot of these DTs and stalkers that are going to be really mobile. So I think the army positioning in the next minute or two is going to be really tough for both these players.
Indeed.
Game resumed.
Blackburn is such a weird map.
I'm actually pretty excited to see how this all shakes out. It looks like both the players are going to be fighting directly on that south side of the map. EMP goes off on that High Templar. Is not allowed to get any kind of storms or anything off, but the Liberators already siege up basically in range of the Nexus.
This Nexus isn't the most important. He could cancel it. It's better to cancel it and not fight for it than it is to fight for it and lose. So, yep, there's the cancel. But it is a reminder of the impending doom, perhaps. That is a fearsome Terran army, and the carriers aren't quite up to the number that can carry the game if they're not being directly countered. Another nuke on top of the Robos, gonna kill one of them just before the Observer finishes. Actually killed both of them, there you go. So once again, no Robos. But it's not necessarily about the Robo units, it's about how the carriers can affect this battle. Maybe the Disruptors that he does have can actually get some pretty good shots. Milkicow can't just go charging in. He has to be careful with how he plays this.
A lot of the Zealots actually, like you were saying, charging in a bit early on, so a handful of them do end up falling over there. Zealot's gonna go after the rocks. If he had the opportunity or the time to do that, I actually think that's a great move. Oh, using the Interceptors in the leash range to try and take out the rocks. Almost managed to get a bit more damage done there, but not quite. The rocks, high armor units, carriers don't actually do too well against them. It's gonna just have to go around the long way.
And of course, the carriers haven't really been upgraded this entire time, right? Like, he did get started with +1. I just think it wasn't really that quick. I don't know how many Chrono Boosts have been going into it. So they really aren't the most intimidating thing. If Milkicow adds on a good number of Vikings, which is pretty quick, if he goes up to 8, you know, 2 rounds of production, I would feel really good about his chances. Until then, I mean, it's an engagement like this that I'm not, whoa, Disruptors, okay, one good shot. Until the Viking count is there, I'll always give Rodzyn a chance. But if he's gonna just like run into EMPs in a big concave, then okay, yeah, that's not gonna look pretty.
Your concave is invalid. I have Disruptors. Okay, that don't want to be running all of your. This is like the tough part about this army right now, is that you have all these zealots that really want to just try diving on in, but as soon as you get aggressive, you're up against a Terran player that has all of these bases, all of this like crazy amount of Sim City that's going to make your Zealots have a very difficult time charging in. And then you're just almost entirely reliant on your carriers to actually bridge the gap over there. But I feel like this is actually where Tempest and stuff oftentimes are really nice, where they can at least do a little bit more focused, directed damage, things like siege tanks and liberators and stuff from a distance. I don't know, dude. Just keep adding on more of these carriers while you try and smack down the nukes and eventually get really sick upgrades to try and win.
Well, now the timing for the carriers to dominate is gone, I think. Like, it was only because Milkicow wasn't getting Vikings that I was worried, but now that he has 12 of them with +3 attack weapons, I'm just like, well, his army is still... I mean, it's not even about being better. They both kind of reached their pinnacle endgame composition. Storm, Disruptor, Gateway, Carrier, and then Bio, Liberator, Viking, Ghost. But it feels like Milkicow has been getting some of the better starts to these fights. His Liberators are sieged up. His EMPs are hitting really clumped up units. So that's why I feel a bit more confident. He's also in more of a difficult scenario. He's put himself in onto Rodzyn's side of the map. So he's making it difficult for Rodzyn to pick and choose what he wants to do. If he decides to go for a counter, it'd take a little while and it might not work out. If he decides to defend, it's into Liberators already sieged up.
Yeah. Well, Disruptors. Ooh, gets a snipe off on one of those Disruptors. Using the cover of these Liberators, not bad. I'm a little concerned for Rodzyn right now because there's not a lot of medevacs or anything, but if just a little bit more ground for Rodzyn's given up, I'm actually a bit concerned that the main base for Rodzyn, where still most of the production is going to be a bit more open, but Rodzyn is going to try and push forward. He's kind of going back and forth a little bit, but he finally does decide to commit. DT's not getting scanned right now and actually getting quite a bit of damage on, while the carriers are also doing a substantial amount of damage. And oh my god, Rodzyn is cleaning up over here.
That was such a questionable fight into the Liberators after being pretty much fully EMP'd, right? Like, EMP was pretty good. But the carriers did end up shining through. The Viking count wasn't enough to one-shot them. I'm not sure they were, like, fully target firing from the get-go either. No, like, early pickoffs, right, on those carriers. So at the end of the day, the carriers did overwhelm, and Milkicow is forced to retreat and rebuild, which he's got one chance to do, all right? He's going to lose a base, maybe even 2 bases, but he's got one more chance to build up an army and take a better fight than that. But it is kind of shocking that finally Rodzyn takes an actual fight. He's like, you know what, whatever, I'm going to go for it. And it works out so much better than any of the previous starts of the fights have gone down. Every other fight, it was like, oh, I don't know. You just got EMP. Like, are you really going to go for it? That worked out surprisingly well for Rodzyn. Carriers, pretty good unit, I guess.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think this is going to be an even tougher fight now because as a Disruptor watched all the SCVs stacked up transfer around to the south side. That was a little funny. Rodzyn is going to have +3 air weapons this time. He didn't have it for the last fight and still won that fight so one-sidedly. Now he's going to have that. He's had time to, get back all of his interceptors and everything. Nice focus fire with the Vikings. Snipes off one of the carriers over here. And it's going to force a backup and a retreat over here from Rodzyn. But Rodzyn actually going to be able to deny this south base from being built for a little bit longer again. While his north base has been mining very successfully now. We're getting to the point where very soon Rodzyn's going to have basically just his south base. And I think Milkicow's only going to have his south base mining, and they're going to be right next to each other with the only remaining bases on the map.
That is, I mean, it'll be one of the first times I've seen Blackburn actually mined out, but it's kind of headed that way. Might be all about the fight of the bottom map. If Milkicow could take, like, really good engagements, then maybe his lacking income wouldn't be as bad, but he did just take a pretty bad one. Still winning overall in resources lost. Pushing through this slow zone. That's one of the reasons that I think it's so difficult to kill either player in this situation. Like, once you're on the other side of slow zone, it's fair game, but getting through it, that's what's really difficult.
Well, the air units can at least sort of ignore the slow zones by going over the dead airspace, but the carriers don't want to go too far forward because the Vikings are there, and the Vikings don't want to go too far forward because, well, they only can attack the carriers, so it's a little bit of a stalemate in that sense. And Rodzyn gonna move to the far north side over here, interestingly enough. Loses one carry to the Vikings, but that's gonna maybe give Milkicow the opportunity to actually establish that bottom center base again.
Well, that's pretty important. Because then it's, kind of, it's the whole idea of you're also defending while attacking when you're in a forward position, which parent players like to do a lot. So it is really important that he gets that up. It's going to be an orbital, so not as ideal, but this little this little zone, oh my god. It's actually like, I just avoid playing in this zone because I think it's so annoying. I don't care if I'm going to win the fight because it's in a slow zone. I'm like, nope, slow zone, that's too annoying. I'm not doing it. The fact that this game could be decided based on the slow zone is kind of crazy. At some point, I feel like one of these guys, probably Rodzyn, is just gonna be like, you know what? No, I'm gonna go someplace else.
Stalker's gonna try and trade out a little bit over here. Not really finding a whole lot. Not sure that they killed anything, but it's small little trades here and there. Not one of these players really have a big bank, but Milkicow at least has a gas bank. Oh my god, Rodzyn. Every single time, I feel like he just starts moving forward, and I'm like, oh my god, you're gonna commit to this, and he sort of backs off and goes back in, and I feel like he's just bleeding off a lot of army supply right now and not really accomplishing anything.
Yeah, that's right about that. Oh, Thor. Why, Thor, why?
Haha! Accomplishment made.
Yeah. That's 3 Liberators that are sieged up, so the Liberators are gonna try and take them down, but are gonna find themselves unsuccessful. Interceptors running into Marines and missile turrets, and the oncoming Vikings forced to retreat as well. Rodzyn not able to find a weak point. I mean, I think it makes sense. He's the one that's trying to move around and trying to find it, but he's, as you said, leading off some units. Now more Liberators and more nukes. I like it. It's actually this is where nukes are just legitimately really good. Like, you're clearing up SAG defense is a good use of nukes.
Yeah. I really thought, like, one maybe saving grace of Rodzyn having moved up to the north side, even though he didn't accomplish a lot, was that maybe it would open up the opportunity for an attack on the south side. That bottom center base has been reestablished, and in a way you can think, oh, well, that's a good thing for Milkicow. He established it, but he's just been establishing it with orbital commands, so I was thinking maybe that's like an opportunity to say, like, oh, you established this? I'm going to kill off all the SCVs there again and also kill orbital command. And it's like just kind of wasting some of the resources of Milkicow slowly, but he still is just really insistent on pushing in through the north side rather than actually trying to go in through the south again.
It's so difficult on this map, no matter how you really slice it. And the middle... Okay, well, sorry, High Templar. Oh, it's going to be an engagement. Oh my gosh, he's actually going to go for it. Rodzyn is deciding once again to initiate the fight into slow zones, into Liberators, into EMPs. The ground army just is, did it ever exist? I don't think so. And now Rodzyn is down to just the carriers, a single disruptor. Milkicow is going to be feeling very confident now.
One disruptor does get a very juicy hit off, but the carriers just do not have what it takes to win the rest of this fight. This Viking count is actually absurd. Even the few remaining bioforces are enough. And Milkicow is finally going to take a 35-minute game, bringing him up 2-1 in this best of 5.
Now, that was after a failed T-Rex. It's one of them beautiful games of StarCraft.
Yeah, Blackburn. I mean, definitely get into the late game on that one after a very crazy start.
Yeah. I still am thinking that Milkicow is just going to be better in the defensive macro game, even though that was a substantially different type of that was the most extended macro game that we've seen yet in all of the matches that we've cast. So, but he did win. It wasn't super easy. I did feel, I think, more confident for him. I was more often confident for him. There we go. I don't know if Rodzyn really wants to play into that, which is tough because I'm also saying that Rodzyn, please don't. Are you in here?
I am not. Oh no.
Run!
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just busy listening to your point.
Anyways.
I was like, yeah, ZombieGrub, that's a good point. Just scratching my chin.
Oh, okay, we got you in here. So, but it's difficult because I also told Rodzyn, like, don't engage into him in the mid game where he's clearly going to be turtling up. I think that Rodzyn can win a macro game because I think he can get a really big extended lead in the macro game by being the guy who leads a charge on the macro front. But last game, it was the T-Rex failed, yes, but then he 4-gated kind of awkwardly late, and it didn't work at all. And then that felt like, once again, that I'd put him back, just like it did in game 2. I want to see him play out a game where he just goes Blink, 3 Nexus, or the Stargate opener again, which gave him that really nice game 1. And then I think the macro game is just like a macro game like that doesn't happen because he wins before that. But if he's going to only attack when Milkicow wants him to, when Milkicow's like, yep, totally prepared, got my tanks, got my bunkers, got a bajillion liberators, then yeah, it seems like Rodzyn's gonna have a bad time. I think there are definitely ways for Rodzyn to bring this back, but this is both players' last chance to make it into DreamHack Summer. In the top left of Lightshade, it is Milkicow.
Down here in the bottom right-hand side, we have the red Protoss player, Rodzyn. Milkicow definitely would be one of those names that I think I have... If we've seen him in a DreamHack, like group stages and stuff for one of these online events, like maybe once. It's definitely been one of the rarer names, so I think it'd be a pretty big victory for him if he could start off this year strong, or I should, you know, it's weird to say start off this year strong because, you know, it's May. We're almost halfway through the year, but start off the StarCraft 2 DreamHack seasonal year strong at least.
Yeah, the StarCraft 2 year is just beginning, guys. Milkicow, he's been one of the players who makes it through the open qualifier and into this closed one, and then, you know, into summer. Yeah, that has happened, but he's also one of the guys that doesn't really do it with, like, you know, real 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. It's close. He could lose to a guy like Rodzyn. And his performance in DreamHack Summer was, I mean, underwhelming is kind of harsh, because for some of these guys in Europe, we were actually talking about some of their first chances in such a tournament format. You know, before COVID, it was like maybe Milkicow makes it through Challenger, goes to Friday offline event, and then no one pays attention to him. Just that's what happens. So many matches to cast, and then he gets to go home or whatever. But it is a new format, it's extended format, and then sometimes they don't do so well. We just like oh, keep your eye on you. We'll see if you can continue growing like a Max Pax has or an Estrella has. So I think that was what Milkicow was at last year. It was like, great, you made it in, but group performance is not going so well. Maybe it's a nerves thing, maybe it's just a particular weakness. So it wouldn't be surprising to see him back in. It's definitely not guaranteed. Yeah,
I actually just looked up. He was in exactly the last season of the DreamHack stuff, and he kind of what you were saying and just what we've been talking about. Basically lost all of his matches except against Solier, who went 0-7 and didn't win any of his matches. So, yeah, not exactly the performance he wanted. But, you know, when you're in a group with players like Cyril, Euthermal, Sol, and whatnot, it's hard to have one of those performances. And hopefully that first one will have been a good experience for him. And if he can, you know, win this one next game, make it back in, it'll kind of be his opportunity to be like, all right, I had my chance to, you know, let the nerves shake off and everything, and now I get to do it for realsies and see what I'm actually fully made of. So, nice little scout, by the way, with the Reaper. He gets back in, sees the Stargate, and kills a probe. Not bad.
So I do think that the first game, right, was when Rodzyn just looked, to be honest, he looked a lot better. I was concerned that Milkicow had just shown a severe weakness to the particular matchup. He was kind of behind from the get-go with some really good Phoenix harassment into not really making the, you know, perfect decisions to get him out of the situation. We're back to that opening, but this time around it's scouted. Milkicow not only didn't scout it, he also opened up with a kind of awkward Marauder thing, then still didn't know if it was going to be dedicated to, so went Cyclone, Tank, Tank, Cyclone. It was just an awkward start for him. This is a much better scenario where he's not doing any kind of odd opener. It's a decent number of Marines because of it. And he goes right into the tech lab. He builds 2 Vikings right off the bat. I think he can go for like 1 Cyclone here. Maybe just go straight to tanks. And I think he'd be able to defend it perfectly fine. He's not even going to go into anything for the factory. And I actually like this decision too.
Yeah, much better setup for dealing with the Phoenixes. As the Phoenix are finally going to start to make their way over at roughly the same number as they did in that last game that he went for the Phoenix opening. And we'll get to see just how different this defense is. I kind of hope. Oh my god, yeah, okay, already an amazing start. Widowmine kills one of the... So Widowmines don't actually kill Phoenix outright if they're at full hit points. But the pairing of the Phoenix, or sorry, the Widowmine with the Viking shots is actually perfect to one-shot those Phoenix. So Really, really great start so far.
So much better than the first game. I still think this is a better chance for Rodzyn than, because it's now 2 games Stargate Opener and 2 games 4-gate Blink, with, you know, both of those 4-gate Blinks really looking quite bad. They were pretty much stopped in their tracks, and they played into what Milkicow was hoping. So I still think this is a better game for both of them in a way, but you know, it's a better game for both of them for the series overall, but as an actual individual game, yeah, this is definitely feeling a lot better for Milkicow. These are all the things that aren't just like factually better for Milkicow. On top of 2 victories, now he gets all these great starts. Like, he's going to be in cloud 9. He's going to have hopefully the confidence to bring him into the mid game correctly, and then sure, maybe a supreme late game, which then I'd also feel good for Milkicow again after last time.
I agree, and you're going to need a Cloud9 world-class championship esports team mindset if you want to be able to qualify for the dream. Sorry, every time someone says Cloud9, I immediately just think of the team now.
You know what's so funny sometimes about you, feardragon, is that sometimes you actually like get these like your puns are actually clever. They aren't just like. And if you just like said them with like bravado and confidence, they'd be like, you know, really cool like sound bites. Oh, good. What am I hit again on this Phoenix? They'd be like really good sound bites, but you kind of like start believing that I'm just gonna laugh at you. So you start laughing at yourself.
Oh no, no. See, it's actually somewhat intentional though, because I don't want you to just appreciate them. I want people to sit in pain with them. I want it to go from happiness to like a point of like, okay, he's still. Oh my god. Oh god. It's like. This was funny, but it's not anymore. I want them to go through that phase.
Oh my god.
Because you know what? Casting is about emotion. Casting is about bringing out emotion in people. People don't really specify what emotion. Just emotion. That's all I have to do. That's my job.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe we should start specifying what emotion.
Wasn't in the job description, but I can tell you that Rodzyn's probably having certain negative emotions right now. As this push shows up at his front door, a lot of Widowmines get situated in a pretty tough spot, but Milkicow actually gonna decide to back off over there. Doesn't really feel confident just charging on forward through that path.
But because he is out here at a really good timing, he's got all of his upgrades done. I think overall this is a more confident Milkicow. Like the first game, he played so defensively with tanks that he couldn't really even do a push out. Now he's maybe playing a little too overboard. We'll find out. 13 probes go down. A Widowmine's gonna pop up actually. Colossus runs into the bio, and there's no anti-air. The Medivacs can just leave.
Oh my god, oh my god, the Widowmines are all going off now. At the last second, Rodzyn does some sick splitting with the Zealots and kind of salvages the situation. Oh, I really thought that was going to go even much more miserably, but still a very, very bad set of trades there for Rodzyn.
No, stop it. Widowmine even goes off on the Phoenix. It just is, that was a nasty 30 seconds right there. Milkicow comes out ahead, about 30 supply. Is going to run his Widowmines into the army accidentally, but charge is finally done, and Rodzyn wants to get some revenge, hoping maybe just this exact timing will work out, but oh boy, it is not at all. Nothing to actually chase down the bio, so they just kite all day long, and their numbers are still really impressive. Their upgrades are really impressive. Rodzyn basically all inning with this move, I think. Like he could actually get torn down. He could get taken out.
And it's never a good situation when you're all inning and your warp-in rounds are like 2 Zealots at a time. This is going to try and pull back over here. Widowmine! Oh my god. Widowmine almost hitting the Warp Prism, which wouldn't one-shot it, but it definitely weakened it up to, you know, some harassment later on. There's a few more Zealots getting warped on in, and hey, Milkicow's down on the low ground right now while this army charges in for the high ground. It's going to turn this into a bit of an awkward choke point over here. Can Rodzyn make something happen? He is having a hard time finding any forward advancement over here beyond just this choke point.
But I have liked this battle more than I thought I would. When he was down to like before the last like 2 warp-ins, and he was out in this open space around the 3rd, which is super concavable, I was like, I don't know about that. But then actually finding Milkicow unaware of his repositioning up to the high ground, laser off a couple of units. His Widowmines are super annoying, but yeah, laser off a couple of units and then back away. I mean, it's much better than the alternative, which I thought was going to be Milkicow realizing, wait, I can actually take this engagement, and Rodzyn just dying because of it. At least his army stays alive. He doesn't find too much more to look forward to beyond that. He didn't grab a 4th while he was attacking. His upgrade was on the way, sure, but it's not like it's an amazing upgrade. In fact, Milkicow just finished his 2 too. So Rodzyn's still way out upgraded. But, I mean, he's alive. He kind of bullied Milkicow for a little bit there. He got something to say in this conversation.
Alive and, you know, starting to get up more of that tech, not just keeping the he kept the Colossus alive during all those kind of weird, awkward, tradey moments, and is also getting up that Storm again. Now, Storm has not necessarily been his greatest ally in a lot of these games. I'd actually say the few disruptors he's made have actually maybe made a bit more of an impact. But that being said, well, Storms have still been good for zoning, and now he's got a nice little Zealot warp in, run by inside the main base. Drawing Milkicow back a little bit is what he was hoping for. But the third base is going to get caught almost immediately. I love the EMP on the Nexus to prevent a recall, but Army is not too far away.
There's one more EMP in here, I think. Oh, gosh. Oh, okay. Tail end. Storms hurts. Yeah, the one EMP had to decide charge lots, Archons, or Storms, and it actually never went down. So probes went down, sure, but the main base of Milkicow is still being ransacked. Takes a lot of time to clean up. It will be cleaned up. But that was all the time not mining and losing some reinforcements. Milkicow scanning, seeing that if there's going to be a counterattack. I think he actually missed the army. He's actually... Ooh, he's not going to set up for it. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, the perfect timing here for Rodzyn. Milkicow, go back! Now he's going to be running into the army already set up. That's not ideal, but Milkicow has a 60 supply lead, so maybe it doesn't matter.
Oh, Storm's already landing on a handful of the units in the army. A lot of them in the red on the south side. It's not because there's only one medevac healing up all these units on the south side. The other medevac finally catching on up. Another steam comes on out. The Zealots one-shotting many of these Marauders, but I think there's just too much bio over here. Archon getting focus fire down, as are the Stalkers. Even the Colossus getting hit by the Vikings. And Milkicow finally leading up the supply, about 90, and I think is on the verge of qualifying for another season of the DreamHack SC2 Masters.
He absolutely is. Oh, that is just salt in the wound right there. Colossus reinforces into the bio. No chance of saving that. Rodzyn doesn't want to give up because it really is his last chance. There's no more qualifiers. There's no lower bracket. This is it, and it's not going to happen here today. He's got to try again for fall, which, I mean, it's definitely possible. Some improvements here and there, but Milkicow, it's like he got better with every game. It's like he got more confident. He familiarized himself with TvP and TV Rodzyn, I guess. And this last game was a much better showcasing of TvP. Kind of from both sides, to be honest, but it's definitely much better for Milkicow.
Absolutely agree with that. And funny enough, yeah, Milkicow tried to throw out a little bit of shenaniganry with like proxies and weird build orders and stuff, but it really does seem like it's just the macro games that have been more impressive about Milkicow's play. And there it is. GG, congrats gets called, and Milkicow wins 3-1. And I think that might have actually been one of the last, if not the last, qualifying match that need to be played. It looks like, okay, there's one more that's still being played of Shadow and Acheron, but definitely one of the longer series that I feel like we followed today.
Oh, for sure. Especially because that third